Subha, today we are going to talk about a very, very interesting topic. It's a very contentious topic and a very controversial topic also. The topic is DIY versus guided investing. The first disclaimer that I must make is that I have been on both sides of the fence. I stand on both sides of the fence even now. As a DIY also, I still take advice from professionals when necessary. And as a professional, I give advice where I am contracted to. But there is also this bigger segment of people who actually expect every investor to cater to what is grey. If you are DIY, you are on one side. If you are guided, you are on the other side. But there is this massive grey segment. It's the biggest segment in our market, which wants to think it is doing on its own, but wants to take ideas from anywhere and everywhere. My problem with this is that I am willing to be accountable for my own decisions which I take for myself. I am willing to be accountable for decisions which I am guiding or taking on behalf of others. I am not willing to give decisions where accountability is not fixed, nor am I willing to speak about them. So, like a lawyer speaks only to his client and doesn't speak about his client's work with others, this is how I think is the correct approach to investing. But I am quite fascinated by this obsession about this vast segment of people who are in the grey, who want to be advised, but want to believe that they are doing it on their own. I want you to share your initial thoughts on this psyche.
So let me also start with a disclaimer. 1979, I engaged an advisor who's still my advisor. I do all my broking through him. He gives me a lot of advice on what equity to buy, what to hold, etc. So I also am on both sides. I use an advisor. I am an advisor. I give advice to friends, relatives, and all. And I also am there in the media where I give very generic advice for which I don't get any fees. So that is my position also. Largely, I have seen people who are very clear in what they want to do, which means they are higher up, maybe 5 crore kind of a portfolio, or a person with a 1 crore kind of a salary. He is very clear that he does not want to find time for this. Largely people say, I don't have time to do it, which means they think they have the competence to do it. So a doctor who's a full-time doctor thinks he can handle his mutual fund portfolio and all by watching some television, and he thinks he can do it. So he does that, and you said he takes advice. Now I can list the people from whom he takes advice. There is television, there are blogs, there are some friends whom he meets at a party who says, oh, I invested in this top 100 HDFC fund or some Mirai fund or something like that. Then there are newsletters which he can pay and buy, newsletters which are free. Then the newsletters from mutual funds. He takes details from everywhere, and a classmate of his could be the CEO of a mutual fund. So somewhere he gets advice from everybody, and he does a hodgepodge. First of all, you know which share to buy does not mean you know how to create a portfolio. So largely he'll have 30-40 shares, no weightage assigned, nothing. So that is what he would have done. Or he would have such 20-30 mutual funds. This is what people do. What an advisor does is he helps you during bad times. He nudges you to invest. He sits with your family and talks to them about what to do. He can speak to your children better than the client can speak to his children. He speaks to his wife. He says why she should be prepared for life after him, how the children should be prepared. So making the will, all this comes as advice. I have no clue why people think this can come free. Can this come free? Answer is no. Do you love doing all this? I haven't found anybody who loves doing all this. Stock picking is still sexy and people find it interesting. But doing this detailed documentation, right from your KYC to making a will to the logic of whether you should support, not support, should you give a loan to your brother or not give, all these things have to be done in an organized way. organized, somebody has to do this. It has got to cost money. It cannot come free. And if this comes free, you're going to be worried. What is that guy getting from you? Why should he do it free?
No, but there is a very high tendency to think that when you are getting it free, you want to believe it's genuinely free. Like I have seen people share what they bought immediately in a WhatsApp group. They'll be willing to tell you everything about why they bought a stock. Now, the person receiving this thinks it is free, this information, whereas the person sharing that information clearly wants you to buy that share by virtue of which the stock price will move up. This is very simple incentive. When I came to market, I was taught not to trust such information. I was taught to do my own work or take advice from somebody who is extremely competent. I was taught to avoid these Samaritans, souls who are very generous, who are giving me names regularly so that I would act in a way they wanted me to behave. It is clearly understood. But I find that that belief is not there with today's young investor. He is willing to think that wherever he gets information, that information should be right and that he should be able to make the most out of it. So there is a lot of what I call as social media seeding now, which has replaced that tip giving, social tipping. It's become social media tipping. So somehow people believe that if there is a YouTube channel which gives regular research on companies, it has no incentive. Or there is a guy trader who keeps on telling he's bought this, or people who continuously talk about what they bought, there is or their entire portfolio, there is no incentive, whereas there is a very clear incentive. I have no two opinions about it. And actually that incentive comes without accountability. That is what worries me as an investor. When I wear my hat as an investor, if you suddenly call me 10 times and tell me, hey, have you bought this? Have you seen this? Have a look at this, and then you share 20 files, which people do in WhatsApp with me all the time. Just observe it and let it pass. Think through it, observe it and let it pass. Most of the time, it deserves to be ignored. But I am seeing a lot of investors in the DIA segment today chasing such entities, such information, such groups, such Telegram channels, wherever, or YouTube channels. Once in a while, somebody will call and say, hey, have a look at this. This guy is saying this. And I would see clearly that he is actually exaggerating. He is creating a story. It's like a soap opera, like TV.
True.
It's a K serial.
True.
In stock market. Stock is being built up into story and all that. I would think immediately, how long will this take to materialize? And I would think it will take very long. And then I would think, what is the tone of this person saying this? It will be like it's going to happen in the next few quarters.
True.
So there is a lot of guiding today which is incentivized towards calling investor to action.
True.
Absolutely. But investor thinks that some good Samaritan is there in this world who is sharing everything for him without incentives. In my opinion, most of this grey gang which is sitting in the middle is driven by social media and by this misplaced belief on incentives. Now, I don't know what will happen to them. Many times I think about it and I used to write and try to alert them and all that. I have completely stopped all that. Because the tendency is also to say that you are saying this because you are an advisor or you are a professional. But I am also an investor. I also know what happens when something happens that which is wrong, because you get cheated all the time by believing the wrong things. But somehow the new investor thinks that he is very astute and that he can't go wrong. But the intelligence of the person who is trying to call him to action is way higher than the investor's level. That's very clear. That is something very, very settled. But I don't know how investors are going to manage to learn where to stand in this without getting hurt. What are your thoughts on this?
even assuming you know what share to buy, how do you know how much to buy? How do you know how to create a portfolio? How do you know how much of emergency funds to have? How do you know how to take medical insurance or term insurance? Nobody tells you that this is the process, and even if they tell you that this is the process, do you want to believe that person, or do you think he's selling something to you? Does he put a thing there saying please click to buy insurance or buy mutual funds? Then he is actually selling to you. So if you don't know who is going to pay the bill, I keep saying this, if you are sitting in a poker game and you're playing and you don't know who is going to lose that day, it's you. If you don't know in a group who is going to pay the lunch bill or the dinner bill, it's you, right? So in the advertising space, if you don't know what is the product being advertised, you are the product. Somebody wants this information to reach you, therefore it is reaching you. It is just not a coincidence that that information or that research report is reaching you. Enough number of people have acted upon that, and therefore now it needs to be spread among a larger number of investors, and therefore it is reaching you. Even assuming for a minute you know all that and you create a portfolio, is it a balanced portfolio? Have you written your will? Does your family know what you have done? Do your children understand what you have done? For what? Is it any goal-based thing? If you have a goal which is 3 months away or 6 months away or even 3 years away, that money should not be in equity, it should be here. Very, very generic stuff is available on the public domain. I keep giving this example saying, I can tell you that peanuts is a good source of protein. But if your kid has got peanut allergy, you should not be buying peanuts in the house.
Absolutely.
That's important. What I said is true, right? So I keep saying, do you have the maturity to take advice from the media? Because from the media, what we do is generic helicopter view. For you, there is no point in having a helicopter view. Biden is going to do this, or Shaktikanta Das is going to do this, or Mr. Modi is going to do this. How are you going to react with that data? How useful is it for you? If your daughter's marriage is next week, what is the point in me giving you a tip today? For you, the tip is useless. For somebody else, the tip could be very useful. If he has got a 5-year view, you will have a 5-year view 1 week after the wedding, after everything is over. Today, you may not have the mind space to even understand what I'm saying. So that advice has to be particular. It has to be given to you. And believe it or no, 1979 till today, I have no clue how much brokerage I paid my broker. Of course, I paid my brokerage, but the wealth that he has created for me is 10x, 20x, 30x of that. I have no clue.
I'm just going to interrupt you on that and just share one point with respect to the brokerage that I paid, which is a personal experience. What I have paid for is trust. As I grew, confidentiality, the willingness to do a lot of services which I need from time to time, and to ensure that whatever they do for me stays with them. It doesn't go out anywhere. The moment I know something like that happens, then that's the end of the relationship. True. This is how I have functioned, even from being a very small investor to this day. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of investors who deal with brokerages, very large ones also, whose information is a public property.
Yeah, we hear that quite often.
Yeah. And there is no regulation today on the responsibility of platforms with respect to information relating to clients. I mean, how can a platform write data on how clients lost stocks or lost money in stocks? Lost stocks by keeping them as pledge in F&O and then doing trading and then got cleaned out because they sold the stocks, or lost money buying a particular stock. How can you do all this analysis and disclose? Even if it is a aggregate analysis, it is a overall violation of privacy, right? When I see such stuff, I'm wondering what else they will be using as information of the client, and where is the safeguard for the client? There is none. Whereas for me there is, because the moment I get to know, that's the end of the relationship. Whereas there are millions of people who are actually the product, who don't realize that they are the product, and who believe in some form of advisory altruism or transaction altruism. There are two types of altruism that I see in Indian market today. Advisory altruism, ये सब free में देगा, सब अच्छा है. This guy gives me transaction altruism. I don't have to pay for anything I do. Then you have to ask, what is he getting? And why is he doing it? And how is he surviving? This question is generally not raised. Or these two forms of altruism. What are your comments?
No, that's exactly what I said, you know. If you don't know who is going to pay the bill, you are going to pay the bill.
So with altruism, you are the product.
You are the product. Somebody wants all this data from you, so they want it to become a habit. After that, they'll keep on giving you more stuff. They'll make it addicting. So you will go and do a 2 lakh rupee F&O position, then you'll do 5 lakhs, then you'll do 10 lakhs. You get addicted. So if they stop trading with you, you will suffer. You become a drug addict. So you will want it. Then they will say it is so much per month, it is so much per year, and all those things. So you will start paying for it at a slightly later date. That's all that will happen. Is it possible to give you something free for life? Why? Right? So everybody, Jio rolled out a free service, right? First year, second year, we got excellent service for 2 years. Now we are paying the price. It's not that they were that time establishing, so they gave it free because they didn't. If there were glitches and complaints, we couldn't complain simply because it was free. So they were establishing. So there is a reason why they were giving it free. Right? Once upon a time in the 1930s and 40s, Hindustan Lever would go around villages of Tamil Nadu giving free tea. Because it was a coffee country,
Correct.
They had to sell tea, so tea was being... Today, can you imagine in the roads of Chennai or Trichy or Coimbatore, Hindustan Lever offering free tea? It doesn't happen.
Oh, yes.
So free samples were given just to lure you
Correct.
into drinking tea.
Correct.
That is exactly what is being done. The advisor, on the other hand, will tell you, assess your capability, tell you what to do, talk to you, find out whether you are lying. Because I have come across people saying, I want to advise, and they have a CIBIL score less than 450. So when you ask for the CIBIL report, you realize that forget investing, this guy has a outstanding to be paid on the credit card, which is the greatest investment he can make. Pay off the credit card, because nowhere he is going to get 42% kind of a return, which he is paying there. So this platform cannot do for you. This somebody telling you to buy a share cannot do for you. Yeah, Nestle is a good share. True, Nestle is a good share. Nestle is a great. Is it appropriate for you? Only an advisor can say. Subra cannot say it on his channel. I can say Nestle is a good share. It does not mean anything for you. Are you ready to hold Nestle for 10 years, 15 years? That is the question you have to answer for yourself. Are you willing to, are you in a position to use that information?
But generally what I am seeing is that if you say it is a good share, it's a great share, virtue selling is sufficient to make millions of people buy or lakhs of people buy.
Absolutely.
Today.
Absolutely. That is the problem, because yes, it is a good share, but for whom? For Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, it's a good share because the amount that he puts may be a fraction of his wealth. Right? He owns a mutual fund. He owns an insurance company. He is different. Mr. Birla's driver may be same age, but for him that may not be appropriate. The advice that I am giving Mr. Birla to buy a particular share could be to acquire the company. Mr. Birla's senior most executive is not going to acquire the company. He is going to buy a few shares and keep it. So his point of view is different. So what advice you get on media, newsletters, etc. is generic advice. This is a good fund. How much in that fund, what to put, what is your total strategy, should you have large cap, mid cap, small cap, how much insurance to take, it's impossible to make it generic. I can do thumb rules that 10 times is what you should have. 10 times will be absolutely necessary for a multimillionaire's son. Right? Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla's son may have a huge income, but he may not need insurance. That family may have enough wealth to cover for insurance, but for somebody else who is working there, it may be applicable. So for whom? Single earning member whose family is dependent, for him it will be applicable. So what is asset allocation? How much should it be? I mean, assuming there is a guy who is a equity trader, while designing his portfolio, I may put a lot of money in debt. But if he tells me, no, wait a minute, my wife is a professor in IIT, her income acts like debt. So I may say, okay, as a family you can take more risk. But his wife is a housewife. I'll say, no, you can't take risks because your salary and incentives are dependent on the market. You bloody well stay in more debt. So the answer is so dynamic based on so many factors, it is impossible for a platform to do it without any human interaction. I don't know how people do it. I'm not comfortable. Even today, I'm not comfortable using a platform for my equity trading without talking to my broker. I may still do it online because it's more convenient, but I would need his nudge to tell me, yeah, go ahead, this looks good, I've spoken to so and so, this we have this view, so therefore you do it. I need that nudge after 40 years of being in the market.
Another thing I noticed, somebody who has got a 10 lakh portfolio pays some subscriptions, multiple, in which he is spending from 25 to 50,000 rupees in the hope that he will learn. He doesn't have the time to learn actually. So in his available time, he is trying to learn and practice with his 10 lakh portfolio on his own. And then his sources are multiple. So the credibility of sources is not ranked. There's no validation, nothing. And he's actually spending money on advice because he is paying for all these subscriptions. And he thinks that he's actually saving money because he doesn't have an advisor. He's actually doing the job of an advisor. He's paying and he is still not able to give time which an advisor should normally give. And he thinks he is saving. This is the typical DIY today.
Correct. An advisor.
Because 10 lakhs, if you take an advisor, even in a distribution, in my opinion, the maximum earnings will be maybe about 10,000.
Gross earnings.
Gross. After GST, it will be much less. Whereas this guy is paying more, spending more and doing that work also and thinking that he is getting it cheaper. The math is not there. And also the feeling is that, okay, I am now 1 crore. So if I have an advisor, I have to pay 1 lakh. So I will spend some 20-30,000 and save 70,000. But for 1 crore, you have to be doubly careful. The safety safeguards that are required are much higher actually. So actually he is playing more with fire than the 10 lakh guy. 10 lakh guy makes a mistake, he will lose 2-3 lakhs, he will again make a beginning. And he will again correct himself. But the guy who is at a higher level, who can't afford to make a mistake, actually is more courageous. That is the second point that I have seen.
No, I have seen a person, now this you are not even going to believe, he had put 50% of his money, 50% of his retirement corpus into Yes Bank at 300 rupees. And he wanted free advice online. I was on television and he wanted to know what to do. And I said, you lost half your money. Now go to an advisor and protect the other half. What do you tell a guy when Yes Bank was at 200 rupees, his average cost was 300. Now somebody would have said, oh, I think the market goes down, you should average. That is a good advice. But in Yes Bank, he would have been taken to the cleaners. He could have bought at 300, 200, 100 and 0.
I have a parallel Yes Bank experience. I have a very close friend who is a knowledgeable investor who had a good quantity of Yes Bank worth over 1 crore. Now at all higher levels, I have been telling him, this is not your kind of stock. It does not pass your quality test. You are a much safer investor. The way you invest, this doesn't suit. But he was believing that this will be the next HDFC Bank. And then, just before the RBI this thing came, virtually on the last day at 2:30 we were having lunch. It was a coincidence. He had come to India and we were having lunch. So I told him, at least today you sell some 79, 80 rupees roughly he sold. What could have been worth 5 crore? He would have got 1 crore. 80% gone. He had spent at least 8-9 years as an investor and yet not got the benefits of time or his effort. The problem is the time he had for decision making was not adequate and he was not willing to give that decision making to others also. So decision making was actually in limbo. It was in that grey zone, not with him, not with an advisor, and events were happening in between which were taking down the value every day and he was not even noticing this.
So if you get an advisor who can hold your hand during difficult times and tell you when to average and when to do stop loss, typically in a good company we would have said buy more. and reduce your cost because I think it's a good company. But you told him no, use a stop loss. But remember, Shyam, after that he would have lost another 90% because it came down to 8 rupees. So another 92% he could have lost after 80. So what you saved him is that 80 to 8 journey. At least you saved
No, but
him that.
I could not make him sell at 400.
No, that's okay. That's
Because
the
he used
communication
400 as validation. No, no, no.
Say, huh.
He is using 400 as validation. He says it has gone from 300 to 400. Therefore, what you are saying is wrong.
So that's what I'm saying.
This is how decision making happens.
The good advisor should be able to hold your hand during bad times and tell you that this too shall pass. Whether it's a bull market or a bear market, this too shall pass. If you made a mistake of buying at a high price, don't make the mistake of selling at a low price, nudging you to start investing. And maybe you didn't have any guts and you started a 2000 rupee SIP, and after 3 years saying instead of 2000, if you had done 8000, this is what would have happened. Helping communicate with your wife and children about what he is doing for you, creating documentation, preparing the family for your death or wife's death or anything like that. All this, if you think you're going to get it free, there is something wrong with you. You're being wheeled into Apollo Hospital with an oxygen tube dripping, and you think there is going to be no bill at the end. Why? What would you get free? Just because you're not getting something tangible. You walk into a hotel and eat a dosa, you know you have to pay for a dosa. Here you're getting nothing tangible, so you think it's free. It is not free. It's very, very expensive. More importantly, people say, I don't have time to do it. Time alone is not enough. There has to be competence. CEO of a mutual fund destroyed my friend's portfolio because that is not his job. He filled it up with schemes from his company. Then this common friend called me and said, you look at my portfolio and comment. I started laughing. I said, your friend has become CEO and he screwed your portfolio. That is not his job. The CEO job or the CIO is not your advisor. They come and they'll talk about an NFO, and that is what they are selling. You have to know the value that the advisor is adding. The advisor is helping you during tough times. He's telling you the benefits. He's nudging you to invest, nudging you to stop, make sure that you write your will. All these things is what he's supposed to do. Finding a good advisor is not easy. I keep saying this. When you get married, you look at maybe 4, 5, 6 girls, but you marry one, right? So take your time. There is no hurry. Maybe take 1 year. Find out. Get their references. Make sure that he's suitable for you. If he's dealing with clients who are 5 crores and 10 crores and you are 30 lakhs, he's not suitable for you. He's good, he's great, but he's not your size. Look for a guy your size to whom you will listen. If you are 50 years of age, don't get a 24-year-old advisor whom you will threaten and say, I told you. He's my friend. He's telling me so buy. Then you're not allowing him to be an advisor. Go to somebody whom you respect. He will add value, and you have to add value to him by paying a fee.
No, I do that when it's needed. I do it.
Why?
There's absolutely no hesitation, because if somebody gives me very good research or a deal, then whatever he has to be paid should be paid. There should be no.
I would like to end this with a nice anecdote. It was told to me by his son. He was a dentist and he was practicing. When the king of that place, he had married a foreigner and they were going on a world tour. So the queen told the king, let's take this jock together. He's good company, because she wanted company. It was a luxury liner in which they were going, but 3 months luxury liner also you need company. So let us take this doc and go. So doc went, luxury liner, king's place, so beautifully saw the world. He came back. And the queen said, Doc, you are great company. How can I thank you? And this doc said, how do you thank a professional? By paying fee. And the queen said, you're a scoundrel, doctor. And I believe this is sometime in the 1950s. She sent a check for 1 lakh of rupees, which she estimated what the doc would have earned in his practice. I think that's the only way to say thanks to a professional. Kissing him and hugging him doesn't help. This is the only way you thank, and why not? You are benefiting. Why would you not pay?
So the more important takeaway is that you have to know how to judge altruism, because there's no altruism in this world. That's my belief. So you have to know first that there is no altruism. Nobody will do something for you with no
Motive.
intent.
There has to be some.
So you have to basically understand that intent and find out whether that intent is good for you, and learn to choose what is respectable intent. Simply because it is free, you cannot rank an intent higher over a paid intent. So that's where I think that most people are getting caught in this mid zone of grey, where accountability is non-existent. And then where accountability is non-existent, you end your activity playing blame games. And that's not a good place for any investor to end up. That's my closing comment. Thank you very much for this engaging discussion. I'm sure people will form their own judgments and take a more sensible path in the way they deem fit. Thank you, Subra.
Thank you.